Okay, before I start talking about screws, I thought I would show you my old drill bit can that I made several years ago. And I had to get this out because there are types of screws in here that I want to talk about. I didn't have in my very well-stocked cabinet over here because I don't use these particular screws for woodworking. They're more for doing what I was doing in my old day job, which was installing doors and hardware. So this is fairly neat the way it works. You can see it's like a little briefcase size thing, and it's all made from stainless steel, except for the piano hinges, which I couldn't get in stainless steel, and they're chrome plated, and you can see they've gotten a little bit rusty in the interim. And the way this works is that you set it down right side up. It's important. And there's a little catch on here, and you push that down, and then you can open the whole thing up. And it opens up like a book. And then the other side actually hinges open as well, so you have a full tray of stuff. And then the other neat thing about this is the interior lid folds over again and slips underneath, so that you can set it down on the cart, and that'll be out of the way. I built this, it has to be close to 15 years ago, maybe a little less. Definitely more than 10. I used to keep the drill bits and whatnot in a wooden carrying tray, but that wasn't durable enough. You can take this and throw it in the back of the truck. It wouldn't get damaged. And if it did get damaged, it would be minimal. And then I could fix it up again, which I've done several times in the past, mainly by bending the parts back in shape again. Anyway, this is full of all kinds of the junk that I would use, but like I say, there are screws in here that I wanted to pick out for this little talk. Okay, first thing I want to do is clear up a little bit about this. The last video in this series, I guess you could say, was fairly popular. I was surprised, actually. It was popular and it was unpopular, too. A lot of people took it totally seriously. It wasn't serious, completely serious. And this one was not actually completely serious either. But everything I'm saying here is basically true. The only thing is that I'm not as pedantic about it as some people are. As you can see from the comments, it got a lot of comments. And a lot of people almost took it personally when I said that the flathead screwdriver is not the flathead. You know, I'll call it whatever you want, but the distinction that I was trying to make is that the screws are actually called flathead, not the screwdriver. The screws, the proper name, the real industry name for the screws is flathead. A lot of people said, oh no, they're countersink. They're not countersink. When you go to buy screws at the big box store and you ask for countersink screws, of course, the guys there know what you're talking about. They probably refer to them in the same way. But if you're talking to someone that knows about screws, actually knows about them, they know these types of screws as flathead. That's the proper name for them. This, of course, is a wood screw, but it holds true for all screw types that have this geometry, like a machine screw. Now, that's a wood screw, and you use that specifically for driving in wood. This particular screw right here is a flooring screw, actually, and these are handy for general woodworking. They are usually a different color. They're not the silver color that you normally see like that. You can get these pretty much for the same price as drywall screws. Drywall screws are very popular for woodworking, but they do have the drawback of being, first of all, small. This is a number 6 thread screw here, and it's very brittle. It breaks very easily. I actually made a video kind of making fun of this screw before. Anyway, the geometry of this screw is different, therefore it has a different name. This is a bugle head screw, mainly because the bottom of the screw here underneath the head curves in like that, so it's almost like a bugle. Here's another screw geometry right here. This is known as the pan head, and you can see the head is shaped like a pan upside down. Some of the comments in the last video mentioned screws that have a round head. Now, this is a pan head, that's specific. Other type of countersunk type screw is an oval head one. That's the proper name for this type screw that's rounded over slightly on the top, is oval head. It's not countersunk again. And now I'm back to flathead screws. This particular type of screw here, you can see it has a countersink, yes, but it's kind of truncated like that. This is called an undercut flathead screw. That means that the countersink doesn't go all the way down to the shaft of the screw. The applications for this type of screw are for pulling something thin down tight to something underneath, usually metal parts. These particular screws that I have right here are self-drilling screws. A lot of people call these Tech screws. Tech is a brand name, but what they are they're self-drilling. Some people also call them self-tapping. They are not self-tapping. They do self-tap after they drill the hole, but the proper name for them is self-drilling screw. Over here I have a very similar screw. It's got an undercut head, and this one in particular is self-tapping. You drill a hole first, and then you can drive this right in. I used a bunch of these in my steel table build to fasten the top down. I didn't want to weld it. Welding can distort the metal, and I really didn't want that to happen. I wanted the top to be absolutely flat on that. So these are very handy, and in my day job, I used to use thousands of these. These are actually hinge screws for the bigger, commercial size hinges. And whenever possible, we used to save these and then use them for other applications because you could easily drill a hole. That's another tip I want to get into right now, is that you can use these as disposable drills in metal particularly. Everybody knows how expensive drill bits are and how easily they'll break off, especially into metal. So I used to use these all the time for pre-drilling holes through the metal. Then I could make it bigger, or I could drive a screw in like this self-tapping screw. So there are probably screws that I'm leaving out of this. I just came out to the workshop to do something else, and I figured I would do this on the spur of the moment type thing. Leave comments on the other screw types that you use or familiar with. The knowledge that I have is not from watching YouTube videos or, listening to self-appointed gurus on forums or whatnot, or, knowledge passed down from my grandfather that may or may not have known what he was doing in the beginning. For more than 20 years, I was in commercial construction, and I dealt with this stuff on a daily basis. And you had to actually know the proper names of things to talk to suppliers or engineers or consultants or even other tradesmen if you have to go ask for something.
What are you talking about? Countersink? You mean Flathead?
So yeah, that type of thing. And what I'm saying here applies to the industry here in North America. I really don't have any firsthand knowledge with what's going on in the rest of the world. I do know what's happening here though, and the proper names for these screws here. Before I go, I thought I would give a little demonstration of drilling holes with the self-drilling screws. Now, the big advantage to using this is for drilling holes that are exactly that size that you need to, say, maybe, possibly tap out. Small drill bits break easily. These screws don't break easily at all, actually, and they stay sharp for quite a long time. This one here is a number 10. Number 10 would be the gauge size of the screw. And I'm going to drill a hole in this plate here with this. Let's take my time, start it. A lot of people do the center punch thing, but depending upon how much experience you have, you can probably do away with that. I know I can. I just started off slow, and I wobble the screwdriver around, or the driver around, until I get to the point where I really want to have it. I know some people will say, well, it's actually faster to use a center punch. No, it's not. It's faster to do it this way. And then this screw will drill hundreds of holes like that, way faster than the drill bit usually will, because those screws are made for fast cutting. So you got a hole there like that, and that can be a pilot hole for a bigger one. I've got a step drill here. This is notoriously hard to start because of the tip geometry on this is usually not ideal. But you've already got a hole there, so you can go ahead and finish drilling it.